10 seconds after that.
We're ready.
All right, we're live.
Okay, greetings to everyone. I'm assuming that we are live now. I haven't started talking too soon. We have been in executive session. We're going to reconvene the meeting. There was no action of anything taken in executive session, so there's no approvals necessary of anything. I'm going down the agenda for those of you who have the board packet. You can just follow down that with us. The next item is to ratify the approval of the Board of Directors meeting of October 15 of last year. Does anybody have, Carrie, you want to make a motion to ratify those?
I'll make a motion to ratify the meeting minutes of November 15, 2022, and the organizational meeting minutes of January 17, 2023.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, thank you. Next item is the chair's remark.
Dave, one thing you skipped was the establishment of a quorum, number 2 there.
I thought we established that.
Well, I guess we did that in executive session.
Okay,
So,
yeah, let's do, okay,
good point. Yes, we do have a quorum.
okay, thank you. I'm gonna make the chair remarks now. This is my first meeting. I'm sure I'll mess up a lot of things. But let me go ahead first and do something that I think is very important. We have one of the largest turnovers on the board that I can at least remember in any one year. We have several long-term directors that are retiring. And, you know, I'm gonna name a couple of them. We have David Borghese. He's been 9 years on the board. He's been treasurer for years. I know from working with David on other things that he has given outstanding financial guidance for CSA. We have Mark King, who's a long-term commercial director who has been deeply involved in CPINES in various matters over the years. As I've gone back through all the documentations and the history and things that I've done with various aspects of our community. Mark's name is written all through there, so there's a lot of institutional knowledge there. We have Rich Spear, a residential property owner director who died last year, and he served not only on the CSA board, but was actively involved in several other organizations in CPINES and was actively involved as the CPINES company proceeded through the processes of from the bankruptcy on through to where we are now. And Carolyn resigned the year before, didn't she? Not this year.
She last year the resorts. She stepped down, the resort replaced her.
Okay, so that now for your information, some of you may not be familiar with it, but our covenants require that there are 9 residential property owner directors. There are 4 directors that are appointed by the resort, and there are 3 directors that are elected by a commercial interest. That's mandated by the way we were set up. As a group, we're all supposed to represent CPINES and work for the good of our community. But there are some new directors that are in both categories. I think we've had so many that have left. I want to welcome Leanne Leahy and Ann Esposito as residential property owner directors, Bob Gossett and Rick Way as commercial directors, and Ray Warco, who's a resort director. Ann Esposito was filling the vacancy created by Rick Spear's death. She was elected by the remaining residential directors in accordance with the CSA bylaws. Several of you have written me and asked how that occurred, but our bylaws provide that if a director who does not complete their term, whatever category they come from, those remaining directors elect the replacement and fill that vacancy. So I hope that those of you who wrote me are listening to this or watch this because, so you'll understand, because I have not replied individually to the email. The rest of the residential property owners, bios are posted in the year they run for election. And so information has been given for Leanne. Information is given for the two of us, the two Davids who ran for re-election, and it's still available on the website. But Ann, I've asked Ann to introduce herself and give some information about herself. So Ann, would you unmute and please do that so the community will have a little information about you.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself to yourselves. My name is Anna Esposito. I am a non-resident. I am from New Jersey. I first vacationed on Hilton Head back in 1970 when I was still in grade school. And you can do the math there in terms of how old I am. And continued the tradition with my own family throughout the 90s, a tradition which continues until today. My husband and I purchased our home in Sea Pines back in 2005. I spent the bulk of my career of 25 plus years in the pharmaceutical industry as vice president and global head of various functions, ranging from finance, business development, and strategic planning to IT, supply chain, and HR, both here and in Switzerland. I also subsequently served as senior vice president of strategic development and mergers and acquisitions for a Swiss-based flavors and fragrance company. My family and I spent nearly 10 years living overseas. We were able to enjoy extensive international travel during that time. Just before our retirement in 2020, I also spent a few years in the domestic healthcare industry, helping to streamline their operations as a result of healthcare reform. I have served on several not-for-profit boards in New Jersey. Since 2020, I have also served on CSA strategic planning and their finance committees. And by the way, in the spirit of full transparency, I have no affiliations with any business entity here on the island. My husband and I have 2 sons and 3 grandsons. And while in Sea Pines, we enjoy meeting new people. We enjoy the beach, the walking trails, pickleball, and more recently, golf. Thank you.
David, you're muted.
I guess they muted me. They didn't want me to talk. In the past, there's been no personal information really submitted to the community on the resort directors or the commercial directors because they came through a different channel. But I think it's important that the community knows a little bit about each one of the new ones. Bob Gossett's been on this board before, and his information is available. But Ray Warco is the new resort board member. And Ray, would you please introduce yourself to the community?
Thank you, David. I'd love to. I first came to Sea Pines in 1971 for a golf outing weekend, and I loved it. I loved it greatly. I convinced my wife-to-be to honeymoon in Sea Pines in 1975. And having visited a few times, I really grew to love the place. And I was offered a transfer to Hilton Head Island in 1988. So we moved here, built a home, and we occupied that home the week of the snow in 1989, which was right after Hugo. So I've been involved with this community living here for the past 34 years. I have been a CPA in the practice for 49 years, and I retired about 4 years ago. I'm currently active in a number of community activities, and I continue to stay that way, and I look forward to serving on this board. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Rick Ray is not in the meeting right now, so I'm going to read the thing that he sent to us. Rick and his wife Dee founded Raycom, the nation's largest independent sports network, in 1979, based in Charlotte. In the early 80s, after visiting Hilton Head, They bought their first property in Sea Pines and have lived full-time here for over 25 years. They have 4 grown children, 14 grandchildren, both enjoy tennis, golf, and boating. They have always been involved in their communities through their charities and as board members. Rick looks at CSA as a real opportunity to contribute to its growth and livability. I thank you for that. I know it's different than in the future, but I thought that people should have a little information about everybody. And last, but by no means least important, probably thought I was going to ignore him, is I want to thank our chair for the past 3 years, Larry Muffler. Larry took on the difficult task of raising funds that CSE needed to repair and replace our critical infrastructure. I personally want to thank Larry for doing this tough work so that I didn't have to deal with it. Because Larry, I hope it's going to be completed and it's going to end up okay, because otherwise we've got to restart, and I really wanted you to have that on your record. Every time you see any construction work going on in Sea Pines, much of that is happening because of the processes and the fundraising that Larry put in place, or led the board to put in place and led the fight for. So Larry, I thank you, and I'm going to tell you that I really appreciate the service that you gave the community. Thank you. So there are a couple other things, a bit of committee information. We had committees that had overlapping functions, and they were not properly aligned with their areas of concern. So we are combining some of those committees and realigning some of the functions and making several adjustments. I believe that it's important for an organization that has to devote its attention to its organization and processes so it can function properly. And we will be doing some of that this year. I know it's not exciting, but I think it's something you have to put in place and maintain. And it's probably something that over the years, whatever we had, it just come to place and just been continued because it was not as critical. But I think we need to do that. I want to tell you a little bit about my style. I think you've already noticed I communicate a lot. My preference is to invite the community to participate from the very beginning when there's an item of importance that the board will be considering. I want your input. We serve the community. We serve the entire community. And you have to remember that our community as one is not only the residential property owners, but it's also the commercial interests and the resort. But we are going to try to get your input and your feedback early on. Now, there's always going to be some information that I'm not going to share. And there are legitimate and legal reasons why that information can't be shared. But I am going to give you the opportunity to be in the know as much as possible. And it's not going to satisfy a lot of you, because a lot of you just as soon be, a bug on the wall every time a committee meets and hear everything. It's just not, not what we can do. On e-bikes, I ask for your comments and opinions. At the same time, I organized the task force. You have sent me over 500 emails. I and we have read all of them. I thank you for that level of participation. I can tell that our community is very divided on this issue. It's going to take some time for us to consider the issue. In addition to board members on the task force, I'm going to add a number of our property owners who are not board members to act as an advisory committee on this, so we can get additional input from the property owners. Not always from a board perspective, but from the perspective of people who are non-board members. The decision in this matter requires careful consideration, and I feel strongly that everybody needs to have the opportunity to voice their opinion. But I feel more strongly that the process in reaching a decision should include detailed input from non-board members, and that process be a process that can be trusted, that due consideration was given to all opinions and viewpoints, and that the decision was reached with the understanding that there is trust in the lines that whatever decision that comes out was made based on a fair process of consideration. With our community being as divided as they are on this issue, there's going to be, whatever decisions made, there are going to be a number of people who are not going to be happy. All I ask you to do is that we'll try to trust, if you trust the process, we can't satisfy everybody on this. It is an issue that is developing beyond, and would have been here this summer, and we would have been facing it retroactively. My policy is to be proactive and address whatever we want to try to make it happen the way we want to happen. And so, you know, the important thing for you to know is that I have read your comments. A couple other people have read your comments. The task force has read your comments. They're going to be considered. Some of you wrote very detailed information and gave all kind of reference articles to read about e-bikes, and we've read those. It's time consuming. Some of you emailed about topics other than e-bikes, and most of those matters were about operational matters. All I could do in that instance is to forward your email to staff. And in the future, if you want a quick answer, because I'm get so many emails, I may not be able to do it. If you will send those questions to info@csacpines.com, you'll get a quicker answer and a quicker response. Some of those were about where landscaping materials are dumped. Some of them are about signs in the yards and things of that nature. That's going to be quicker than coming through me. That site is listed on our website, so you can go there in case you didn't write it down. Okay, I told you in my introductory message that I do not do social media. If you want me to know something, you email me on the chairman's email address that's already been published that you've been writing. I'll read it and I'll deal with it. Do not expect a response. I apologize for that. But there are so many emails that if I responded to each and every email, I wouldn't have time to do anything. I do the things, my tasks that I'm obligated to do. I am a people person, and I am interested in working with people. And you're going to see me blend more that way. But I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to get into long dialogues with people who have different opinions or anything else. I'm just telling you like it is. I don't mean to insult anybody, but I like to set the ground rules when we start. I'm an old fogey, but I am who I am. And, you know, we're going to try it, you know, my way. So I ask that you bear with me. And together, let's keep Sea Pines as being an exceptional place to live. We can do it. We need to have the we need to be nice to each other. And I will tell you one other thing. If you send me an aggressive email, I am just like everybody else. That aggressive email, I throw up my armored suit on me that I use when I walk into a courtroom, and I'm ready to resist that. So if you want to get a message to me, be nice, don't be aggressive. And, you know, all I can tell you, this is plain talk. It's just the way I am. And we'll try to treat you the way that I would want to be treated if I'm on your side of the fence. And that's the best I can do. So thank you for the opportunity to make that statement, and we will go now. I'm sorry it was so long, but that's the opening statement, and I wanted you to know something. Thank you. Okay, President remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before I go into my opening remark, I also want to personally thank Larry Monson for the last 3 years and the hard work. He's been an exceptional person to work with. Sometimes he's been great. Sometimes he's been an exceptional pain in the rear end, but he has always strived to do what he thinks is best for Sea Pines. And I respect that greatly and appreciate the work he's done. So Larry, thank you for me as well. I'll keep my remarks brief. We've got a number of things to go over in the management reports. Probably the most important thing I want to bring to the community is I think everyone is aware that our Director of Safety and Security, Mr. Toby McSwain, has tendered his resignation and is no longer with the CSA. Toby was recruited by another organization and has left to a much more larger job. I won't go into that. I'll let Toby do that. Tell folks that when you reach out to him. It was a very amicable parting. Toby did a tremendous job here for the last 10 years. We appreciate the service that he gave to this community, and we wish him all the best. His biggest regret to me over the last couple of weeks was he could only give us a couple of weeks notice because of the nature of the new role required him to get into the role immediately. And he had to be out of the country for this role. So he had to schedule, he had to meet. So we wish Toby the best. We're going to miss him, but we are going to move forward with our security group. And I will be posting Toby's job tomorrow. And we will be moving ahead and hiring a new director of safety and security over the coming weeks. We have a very capable management team in that organization. Captain Greg Coleman has been with us for almost 23 years. We'll be filling in and handling that organization until we find a permanent replacement. And Greg will be keeping me abreast daily on things, and as needed, I will support Greg. But I'm very comfortable with where we are right now in the interim until we hire a new director of safety and security. So I look forward to getting that going. Probably the biggest thing that we have ahead for that group is, outside of the regular tourist season, which appears to have already started, is the Heritage Golf Tournament, which will be coming up in the second week in April, second full week in April. Toby did a masterful job of putting the security plan together for that and made sure that plan was done and ready to go before he left. He and I have been over that extensively, as well as with the Heritage Foundation, and we are very prepared for the Heritage Golf Tournament to move ahead with the security team that we have in place. And I look forward to that. It's going to be an amazing tournament. It's an elevated tournament. There will be lots and lots of big names here. It should be very exciting. And the Sea Pines CSA organization, security and otherwise, we look forward to them coming into town and being part of that moving ahead. So I'll have more to say as we go through safety and security report. I'll do my best to give that report in the interim. And then the only other thing I'm going to add is there are a couple of big projects going on that aren't related to CSA. I wanted to mention those in case you're wondering. Probably the first and the one that's been the most disruptive, it's not a CSA project, is the Plantation Drive water line and the repaving of that road. That road is finally started to be repaved. They started yesterday and are making progress today. Russell Fredericks will give us more information on that. And then the community is also going through, not the community, but our waterways are going through a dredging process right now. They've done some work at Braddock Creek, and they have moved over to Harbor Town. Those are not CSA projects directly. Those are projects by South Island Dredge Associations handling those, and that work is continuing now in those areas. So if you're out and about at Harbor Town or possibly Braddock Creek at South Beach Marina, you may see the dredge and the dredge operations down there. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Sam. We'll go into management report. We have the community infrastructure. Russell?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. First wanted to take a moment and thank our property owners for their patience and understanding over the last few months of construction activities along Sea Pines Drive, particularly. I know many of you were inconvenienced at various times. So again, thank you very much for your cooperation. We've recently completed the drainage and resurfacing of Red Cardinal and Snowy Egret roads. We're also will begin work on Wagon Road in the near term. We're also currently working on Sea Pines Drive from Lighthouse Road intersection to the Baynard Cove Road intersection. We've completed the Leisure Trail resurfacing. Along with that resurfacing, we've realigned the Leisure Trail in areas and also widened it to give a more comfortable experience to owners and guests while in Sea Pines. That's been completed, but the real major construction of the roadway and roadway alignment and widening is coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So we've been reaching out to property owners that are along that stretch of road and going to be affected by that work. Along with that, we've also completed the majority of stormwater drainage work along that stretch of road. So we're in good shape, and we'll be wrapping up major activities here in early April before the tournament rolls in, as Sam had mentioned. Also in the same area, we have one of our Sea Pines timber bridge number 24, that's going to be reconstructed and repaired here in the near term. It's in the queue here in the coming days and weeks ahead. We are working closely with our contractor to get that underway, and that will we're going to need to close that bridge for at least a couple of weeks or while that construction work is ongoing. So again, that timber bridge will look similar to the other timber bridges that are along Sea Pines Drive. So excited to get to complete that project. Other things that other projects that we recently completed was the resurfacing of Greenwood Drive from Club Course to Sea Pine Circle. And then also numerous beach walks over the last couple months. We're currently working on beach walk number 46, and then have plans to start the reconstruction of beach boardwalk number 43A, which are just off of Sea Pines Drive. So those are in the queue. Other work that we have in the planning and process that we've started on is the rest of Sea Pines Drive from Baynard Cove Road to Land's End. We're currently working on engineering. Then we're starting to begin some tree work in those areas. And also the surveying of the Harbortown roads, Mizamast and Genoa, those roads around the Harbortown area in the queue for survey work, so we could begin engineering there in the near term, as the majority of the stormwater drainage is in need of repair down there, and the roadways as well will be resurfaced. Sam had mentioned the South Island PSD project. Their contractors are progressing with paving activities, which will be complete here this week. They do have some additional water line to install along Plantation Drive from the stables area back to Lighthouse Road. So they again are progressing quite well. And then there will be some future phases of work as well throughout the community going towards the Greenwood Gate area in the future. So that concludes my report this morning, and glad to take any questions before we move on.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments they want to add to what Russell said? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to Jared. You want to give us some update on maintenance and standards?
Yes, sir. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I'm just going to go over some of the divisions of maintenance just to provide a quick update on some of the things we've done this year. As far as tree care, so far this season, we have performed roadway trimming on side streets off of Greenwood Drive. Some of these include Greenwood Lane, Jessamine Place, Palmetto Place, Loblolly Road, Magnolia Crescent, Willow Oak, Red Maple, Tupelo. We've done all of Greenwood Forest, which is approximately 11 streets, and we've done approximately 14 streets in the Heritage Woods area. Upcoming tree work, we're going to continue doing roadside trimming. We're going to move to the Lawton Woods area, and then we're going to do North and South Live Oak and Willow Oak West. We anticipate Leisure Trail tree trimming to start in early March, and we are starting beach walk trimming actually Monday of next week. Our carpentry and sign division, we're just continuing to work on work orders for mailboxes, house number signs, road and leisure trail signs, and the sign cleaning and soft washing of structures will begin next month. Also, it doesn't sound like I said a whole lot for our sign department, but last year maintenance had approximately 1,900 work orders, and 1,100 of those work orders were just from the sign shop. So just to put in perspective, those guys are constantly changing mailboxes and house number signs and street signs. A division that we rolled out last year was our facilities maintenance division, and I haven't done a whole lot of reporting on that. It's kind of one of the things that happens in the background, but I did want to provide a kind of a highlight on that division, as I feel like our staff's done a lot of work in the last year. Throughout the last year, we've repainted the interior and exterior of the CSA admin building, along with new signage in the conference room and the exterior of the building. We've also updated the nameplates for each office inside the building. Actually, it's still in progress, but we did replace the sign out front of the CSA admin building. And then we anticipate that being completed probably in the next week or so. We've also been able to provide daily cleaning and inspections of Tower Beach 365 days a year now. We've also repainted the interior and exterior of both gatehouses, replaced outdated flooring, and remodeled the restrooms in both gatehouses. Then last year, our debris recycling division, we've picked up over 12,000 piles of debris for 2022, which yielded approximately 15,000 cubic yards of debris. And then our roadside division, so far just this year, we've done leisure trail repairs on the Greenwood Drive stretch. Roadway repairs, we've done several locations on St. Andrews Place, Wood Duck, and Baynard Cove. We've also updated the lighting at the Greenwood Gate to enhance visibility and safety for the staff members up there. Upcoming work for our roadside division, we're going to be doing some leisure trail repairs in the Heritage Woods area and Baynard Cove area. Roadway repairs, Governor's Road and Club Course should be beginning later this week. And the CSA staff has begun roadside mulching and will continue mulching throughout the spring. For lagoon maintenance, we're continuing weekly treatment for aquatic vegetation in lagoons, maintaining water levels and ensuring levels are rising and lowering as intended. This upcoming season, we're continuing to work the town of Hilton Head to plan repairs on existing infrastructure per the town stormwater agreement. And we are also beginning lagoon tree trimming next week as well. Our stormwater maintenance and repairs. So far this year, we've done line jetting and catch basin cleaning on Sand Fiddler, Marsh View, and the side streets off of South Beach Lane. There's approximately 7 streets total down there. Catch basin repair, we've done Battery Road, Greenwood Drive by Lot 8, Planters Woods, and Heritage Road. Ditch maintenance, we've done some maintenance in Club Course and some on Otter Road as well. And you can look for upcoming work in the Lawton Woods area, all the side streets in there, and the T streets off of Sea Pines Drive. We're going to be doing some line jetting. We're also doing some ditch maintenance in Old Military near Deer Run Lane and Governor's Road near Bateau. We did complete several emergency repairs. Lighthouse Lane had a collapsed pipe repair. We had a collapsed pipe on Sand Fiddler, and then also a sinkhole on Gadwall that our staff responded to as well. And then just a quick tidbit on our community standards. So far in 2023, CSA has issued approximately 220 violations regarding community compliance issues, and thus far 41% have already been closed. Land use is working with residents to obtain compliance on the remaining open violations. To put in perspective, year to date last year, there was 58 violations. So we're almost 4.5 times that. So the addition of a full-time staff member and updated operational processes have proven to be effective for the department. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Jared. Any questions? Did somebody have the hand up, Larry?
Yeah, I'd just like to note, apologize for going at this, but if you've just listened to Russell's and Jared's reports and anyone has any question about what CSA does for them during the year, I hope they'll get a huge appreciation of how much work goes into maintaining this community to the standard that it is. And thanks to Sam and the way and the organization that he runs and the 2 directors, we've got a great improvement. So I hope everyone appreciates just how much goes on during the day that they don't necessarily understand. And they look at the board meeting and wonder what we do. Well, we allow Sam to run this company with the kind of directors and staff that he does, and all that work gets done. So just wanted to make that point.
Thank you, Larry.
That's a very good point.
David, pardon you.
Join the meeting.
Hello? Yeah.
What happened?
We have a director joined. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Jim, you had a.
I just want to echo Larry's comments, but also maybe when Victoria gets to the financial, we can highlight the level of investment that's being made out of the special assessment, as well as the operating funds to be able to do all of this. I mean,
It's when people ask questions about their assessment, special assessment, the cost of doing business, gate revenues. I think we see how we're spending it and the amount of money that is required to fund operations.
Thank you. Very good point. Anyone else at this stage? Okay, we'll move to communications. Amanda?
There we go. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, board members, and good morning to those who are watching via the live stream. Just a couple of comments from the communications department. Before I jump into those comments, just as a quick reminder, if you're joining us via the live stream and you have a question for the board, please send that before the meeting adjournment to questions@csacpines.com. I am monitoring that account as we speak, and we'll make sure to get those to the chair so they can be addressed. So again, questions@csacpines.com. From the communications department, quite busy supporting what you've heard from the directors who have already spoken and those who will still speak. So putting out a lot of great information. We hope you guys are receiving that. If you do not receive our weekly email communications and you'd like to receive those, please reach out to us directly. You can email us at info@csacpines.com. You can call the office. You can come into the office as well. We'd be happy to get your email set up if that is an interest that you might have. We also put this information out on our website. That's cpinesliving.com, a great resource. And we also have a Facebook page. Follow along if you aren't already. That is facebook.com/cpinesliving. If we can be of any assistance, happy to do so. And at this point, I'm happy to take any questions any board members might have any.
Thank you, Amanda. Anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go next to finance. Victoria?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Until Amanda gets me into the picture here. Good morning, everyone. Just a couple notes of what we're dealing with in finance. I thought that you'd be interested that we still have over 1,000 residential property owners that have not remitted their 2022 critical infrastructure. So I thought that would be interesting to you. And we have for the 2023 assessment, only 25% of residential property owners have remitted that, but that's not a problem. It's not due until April 1st, so we have plenty of time. And in reaction to those two items, the finance department has sent out another email as well as another mail via the post office to those property owners that still have a balance. As far as the financial statements, the books are closed for 2022, and we're preparing the financial statements in anticipation of the auditors coming on site next month. So I will be keeping everybody updated as progress there. As far as administration, I hope everyone is aware that we have implemented CSA 360. We're doing it in modules. We've implemented dispatch, patrol, and now we have implemented the property owners module so that you no longer have to call the Welcome Center. You can get it online and through an app or through a website. So we're almost finished. We're making a couple of improvements to that module. And then we'll be going on to the short-term rental modules. That will be very helpful to those people that rent their house on a short-term basis. Does anyone have any questions for me? I will give a financial report in just a few minutes.
Anyone? Okay, let's go to operations and special projects. David?
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Just had a few quick Forest Preserve updates for you. As you may have noticed in last week's community email, we're proud to announce that the new interpretive signage at the Sea Pines Shell Ring has been completed and installed. The signage was made possible by a grant through the town's ATAX program. This past year, we were able to utilize all the current information from seasonal archaeological work that occurred at the Shell Ring from 2015 to 2019 by Dr. Matt Sanger and his team. at Binghamton University. His work has made our shell ring, and there's only about 50 that are known to exist. About half of those are no longer around. They've been destroyed through the ravages of time and development. To make ours one of the best studied shell ring that exists. And just really quickly, in case you did not know, our shell ring was originally started almost 4,800 years ago. So this was about the time that the Great Pyramids were being built. And they were able to determine that there was an initial occupation that was the primary occupation, in which they believed that there was a group of people, of families that lived there. The ring was then abandoned, likely due to changing sea levels, in which the island Hilton Head no longer was an island. And then some hundreds of years later, it was reoccupied. But when they came back and reoccupied Hilton Head Island, they no longer utilized the shell ring. They were focusing more on aquaculture, farming at that time. And they didn't use the ring or occupied it as they did before, but we knew that it still held importance to those native peoples because they cremated their dead, and evidence of that was found at the shell ring. So there is a series of 6 panels at 5 stations at the shell ring. They have an accompanied QR code that has a video that complements and enhances on each panel. And we're really excited that it's finally in. It's been a very long and rewarding process, but I encourage you to either go online and check it out, or to better yet, go to the Forest Preserve and to the shell ring and see all the information that we have out there. Secondly, just wanted to give you a save the date for the spring fundraising event, the Party in the Pines for the Forest Preserve. It'll be coming up on Saturday, April 1st. There'll be more information that will be forthcoming shortly, but wanted to go ahead and give you a save the date for that. And then lastly, wanted to let you know that we are entering into the peak prescribed burning season. It's all based on weather. You theoretically could burn anytime during the year, but because the weather often gets favorable in the springtime, the months of February, certainly March, April, possibly a little bit of May is considered to be peak prescribed burning season in the state. Prescribed burning is a vital tool that we have in the toolbox for our overall land management plan program that's in the Forest Preserve. So keep an eye on your CSA emails and other notifications. We will certainly do our best as weather presents itself, often on short notice, 1 day or 2 days notice, to let the community know what it is that we're doing. But we are optimistic that we'll have favorable weather and that we'll be doing some prescribed burning in the Forest Preserve here soon. That concludes my report. If anybody has any questions.
Anyone have any questions of David? Any comments? Okay, we'll move to the next item, and safety and security, transportation. Sam's going to take that on today.
I will do my very best, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to report that we're fully staffed with our gate employees. Currently, we are down 4 security officers. We have a couple of interviews coming up. We have raised security salaries, where we are the most competitive community on the island as it relates to sworn security officers, and we're seeing some results out of that. I am hopeful that we will get full staff here shortly with our sworn security officers. We continue to struggle a bit with getting response time from the sheriff's office. They are understaffed just like we are, and overwhelmed at times with a change in director of safety and security. I'm going to be meeting with the sheriff, reaching out to him and his staff to see if there are things we can do better to work together and creating a strong positive relationship with the sheriff's department, as well as the town of Hilton Head and their new director of public safety, will be of the utmost importance for the next security chief. So the 3 of us, the town, the sheriff, and CSA, will all be pulling in the same direction as it relates to law enforcement activities inside of Sea Pines. Finally, if you've been in the community over the course of the last couple of months, you probably recognize that we're already very busy. Last year, for the month of January, we had 7,523 daily visitors. This year, for the month of January, we had 9,396 daily visitors come through the gates. Right now, we're already 1,000 visitors ahead of last year for the month of February, and obviously there's more time in the month to go. So we are busy, and we were certainly busy this weekend, and we expect to be busy from here on out. So gate and security will need to be at the top of the list of most important things we do inside of Sea Pines moving ahead. Happy to try and answer any questions anyone may have, and if I don't, I will do my best to get back to you with it.
Larry has questions.
Yes,
Sam, I know you put new signage out on the main gate, past the go-through side. Has that been effective in avoiding the turnarounds?
It has helped some, Larry. The challenge is folks just won't read the signs, and that continues to be the biggest challenge we have, despite the number of signs. The signage is not the most attractive, but it's somewhat effective. We will be looking at an overall signage policy and strategy for Greenwood Drive as well as Sea Pine Circle with the town here in the future. It may require some overhead signs or things of that nature, which are not things we've considered in the past. But every time we have someone stop at that gate because they don't know where they're going or where they need to go, it creates a backup. And that really is the biggest challenge we have at the gate. It's not the sale of the pass. It is folks trying to figure out which lane they need to be in. So we will be working more and more on that over the coming weeks.
Thank you.
But at one time, you may recall that Sam talked about there might be a good idea that talk to the town about putting signage on Palmetto Bay Road, so that at that point you alert the people which lane they need to go into to get pass, or if they already have passes. That might help early on doing that before they actually get into the Greenwood.
And the town is amenable to doing that. We're talking to the town staff now about that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I think Mr. Sharp had his hand up.
Tom?
Yeah, Sam, would you please repeat the daily pass numbers again? I found those interesting.
Sure. For the month of January of 2022, we had 7,523 daily passes sold. For the month of January 2023, 9,396.
Okay.
For the month of February to date, as of yesterday, we had sold, last year we sold 7,794 through February 21st of 2022. This year through February 21st of 2023, we have sold 8,866 daily passes. And I will also add, and the board's aware of this, or remind the community, this really is just the passes. What really matters at the gate is not necessarily the passes. It has to be you have to add the trips through the gate. So if folks are coming into Sea Pine to buy a daily pass, it also means that our folks have bought the annual passes, our Palmetto passes, as well as our friends at Hilton Head Plantation. We have more of those folks coming through. So really, it's daily traffic counts going through the gate, which I don't have at the tip of my fingers. That creates the other part of our challenge at the gate is just the structural size of the gates. We can't get people through as fast as we need to because the gates, we don't have enough gate, for lack of a better term.
Okay. Any other questions the same? Okay, we'll go to financial reports. Victoria?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be very brief because, as I mentioned, normally there is a financial statement in front of all of you, and then I can kind of go through that and point out some highlights. As I mentioned, that the financial statements are still under audit, so they are not ready to be issued. A couple of points I did want to mention is we did finish the year at about 1.2. So, and that is attributable to a couple things. One is we were able to finally build that critical infrastructure, which amounted to about $3.9 million, of which we've never had before. And to answer Mr. Caskey's question, so far of that critical infrastructure revenue, we've spent approximately 3.1 million. So, and Russell's doing his darndest to spend more and more and more. So we're going to look for that more this year. And finally, I did want to mention that in addition to the 3 million has been, as you know, has been spent over the last few years. We decided to start spending the money before we were able to collect it. But in addition to that, we did approximately 3.6 in major projects and major repairs this year. So our critical infrastructure fund balance is now in the positive, a little over $1 million. So more to come on the financials, as well as I'll probably be presenting quarterly as we move on through the year.
Any questions of Victoria about the financials?
Victoria, have we been able to return to the general fund or to the reserve fund any of the monies that we borrowed for to get this critical infrastructure?
Yes,
going?
no, when we were spending it, the fund balance was just going negative, negative, negative. We are now have flipped the coin and we are now back in the positive by a little over $1 million.
Okay.
I don't expect that to continue as these projects keep going. And
is that a result of having to push projects back out of calendar 22 going into 23? Or
well,
the fact that we're collecting them?
Yeah, it's just we made budget in 1 year and then we just can't, whether weather or supply, or we can't get them finished. So it's yes, I'll be coming to you at the next board meeting with a budget amendment to amend some of the funds that we had budgeted in 2022 that we were not able to spend, that we're going to need to push them forward to 2023.
Got it.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd like to dovetail on that just a bit. You will also see us going through the Sims committee and the finance committee about expanding the season that we do work using those dollars. Certainly in the busy season, we would want to avoid the Sea Pines drives and the Greenwood drives of the world. However, every month is becoming a busy month for us. And so for us to say we're only going to work 8 months out of the year and expect to get efficiencies and economies of scale as we bid these projects, it's not going to happen. So we're going to be looking to change the way we do business so that we're doing more of the things on the tertiary streets and the side streets almost year round if necessary, so we can get these dollars in the door and out the door and into the ground in a way that's efficient and effective, that we get the most value for our community out of it. So there's going to be more to come on that, but you will see us over the course of this year. That's one of the goals we have. I don't want to carry those dollars over year to year. I want them spent in the year they were programmed as best we can. The larger projects, there's going to be some of that, but the smaller things, we're going to spread the dollars across the community, and we're going to work as best we can, hopefully year round, in ways that aren't disruptive, but so the work's getting done.
Any other questions?
I would just like to make a comment following on one comment that Victoria made, that about 1,100 residential property owners haven't paid the 2022 critical infrastructure fund assessment, and that has implications of cash. When we go to spend money, we need the cash in the bank to actually pay for the projects. So to those of you listening, not the board members, but those of you listening, please follow up on those outstanding assessments.
Thank you. That's very important. Okay. Unfinished business. We have a resolution to approve the committee meeting schedules. I assume everybody has looked at the schedules. These have been furnished to you, I think, several times in the past. I would move we adopt the resolution to approve the committee meeting schedules. That's second.
Second.
Any discussion? Here's no discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed, do likewise. These are fairly routine resolutions. We also have the next one is the approval of certain committee charters. Not all charters have been prepared and finalized. We are, as I said in my message, we are going through some of our processes and redoing our processes and combining certain committees and functions and things like that. But the ones that are set in the resolution are to approve the charter for the Sims committee, which is a community infrastructure maintenance and standards, the executive committee, and the finance committee. I move that we adopt those charters. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. At this, we're coming to the close of the meeting in which we will take the questions that have been submitted to the website, and we're going to take a couple of minute break, about a 5-minute break, so we can go through the questions.
David, pardon you.
Do the answer.
I think.
Join the meeting.
I think we missed one
What's
piece.
that?
Item B, the Board of Directors Committee membership rosters. I apologize. I think we skipped over that one.
I thought we didn't approve that. I thought I read it.
We approved the committee meeting schedule.
Okay, I'm sorry. Again, as I said, I'm making mistakes. So the membership roster is set forth in your packet. I think all of the committee chairmen have reviewed those. I will move we adopt the resolution for the committee member rosters. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Say, raise your hands. Any opposed? Likewise. Anything else we've omitted there that we need to go through?
Those are.
Okay, one other comment I want to make at this point before we take that brief adjournment. I want the community to understand that the business of CSA is run by the president, Sam Bennett, and his staff. The board sets policies and guidelines. The board is aspirational. But the work is done, and everything that goes on of importance is done through Sam Bennett, the president, and his staff. And we rely on them. They are what makes Sea Pines work. We set the framework, they take it from there and they go. The board is not to be involved in operational aspects. And the community needs to understand that, you should look to Sam Bennett. I am purposely trying to direct calls from me to Sam. To give Sam something to do. He doesn't have enough to do. But do bear that in mind, because that is a clear distinction. And it's very important that you realize that they run Sea Pines, not us. We guide Sea Pines. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess and come back and answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Amanda or Sandra or anybody, this is David Pardue. Can anybody hear me in the room?
Yes, sir, I can. You are on live still, David.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. Let's see. My internet kept cutting on and off, and so that's why all of a sudden the Zoom would just go dark, and it would stay dark for like 10 minutes. So I've logged in on Zoom a couple times, but I just had to call on the telephone. So that's me. So
Okay.
I will,
Yes, sir. We have you on. We have you on the line. We appreciate you dialing back in.
okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
I'm just going to put on mute, but I just wanted to let you know what was happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are back.
I was gonna start with, I thought. We ready? All right. We're going back on, so all of you can cut back on or listen or however you want to do it. The first question is about the Tower Beach entry. And why doesn't the security guard ask for a current photograph of CSA property owner ID card for entry? And I'm gonna add, there's a little bit more to that, it's a long question, but I'm gonna ask Sam if he would answer that.
Yeah, we've talked about that as a team, and the security staff feels like that having the property owner come through in their vehicle with a vehicle ID is adequate and appropriate. If they have a question about a property owner, the property owner is not in their vehicle, they will show the ID, but the security staff believes it would be onerous and create a backup during peak periods to ask property owners for not just a decal on their car, but also their property owner ID. We have on rare occasions have a property owner allow someone who's not the property owner to use their vehicle to go into Tower Beach, and when we discover that, we reprimand that property owner, and we will continue to do that. The security team that's out there, the gate attendants, they have a pretty good idea of who comes in regularly, and they see something out of the way, they will ask someone for some additional identification, but we do not believe it's necessary to ask every property owner coming through there in a vehicle that has a property owner decal on it to also present a property owner ID in it.
Thank you. I want to also add to that, it said, ask everybody to check your property owner card. I did check ours. My wife and I checked ours about 2 months ago and realized it had expired. There's a different color to the card now, to the current card. And if you ever required to show your property ID and you're showing an expired card, it may not get you in the gate doing if you're using a loaner car or something, things like that you would need it for. So please check your ID, make sure they're current. If not, come and get them reissued. And that's just a side issue from that. Our next question is about e-bikes, and it's a long question, but primarily they're encountering people that are coming really along the beach and in the area, and they are using electric bikes. And they're saying as long as they use the electric bikes, but they don't use the power and they're actually pedaling, they've been pedaling them, they have been told that they're okay to use in C-Pines. I don't know where they got that exact information or anything, but this whole question is also a part of our whole e-bike investigation and how we're going to handle enforcement. It is an enforcement issue, and we have to make some decisions as to that. As for example, one general question on this is that somebody has an e-bike, they take the battery off if they can, and they use it. It's no longer an e-bike, so I don't know what to do. But I can tell you one thing that I've gotten from the emails. Apparently, because of e-bikes, it is a lot easier for somebody to put onto the beach at Caligny and come down the beach to get into C-Pines. You don't have to pedal. You use your electric bike. You can go against the wind, so you don't have to worry about the wind. I mean, I always had to worry which way the wind was blowing, how hard I had to pedal, or whether I could do it. So with the advent of e-bikes, we are getting an influx of people who come down through the beaches and then enter one of the boardwalks. And there are a lot of boardwalks they can enter, so you can see that if whatever we do, we're going to have to deal with that as well, and that's a very difficult issue. So the whole issue of enforcement will include what do we do when we make a decision on that. I wish I had a better answer now, but it is under investigation. Our next question is a board question. This one is from Ted Levitt, and he says he estimates, but he doesn't have the exact number, that we are discriminating against the 1,600 owners who do not rent through the C-Pines Resort, and in favor of the 400 that do. And I think what this question means is that the C-Pines Resort has the privilege of giving free passes to their guests on their rental property. So I think this is what it's addressing. This goes back to Charles Frazier. Charles Frazier was a developer. He gave his company certain benefits and privileges. Those benefits and privileges, including, the guest pass. He could have virtually anybody that was a guest of the resort and a very extensive, broad authority to have a free pass to get into Sea Pines. That has been passed along and assigned all the way through all of the corporations that succeeded the original company and into the resort. That cannot be changed without the resort and several other entities agreeing. There's a thing called the gate entry agreement, and that's fixed. So it's beyond CSA to do anything about that. That's what we bought into when we bought into this community. So it's, you develop a community, you give yourself certain rights, and that's the way that it is. I don't have a better answer. Yes, there's a question. Cliff?
Yeah, David, I would just like to add that those privileges came with certain obligations as well. And one includes a sizable assessment that is paid by the resort to the community each year, which could be considered in turn for certain privileges. So it's a balanced situation, and I don't think unfair.
Okay. Thank you. We have a question of the board members who rent their property. How many of them rent their property for more than 1 month? That is a very personal, private question that not to be answered. I mean, I'm sorry, it's just board members don't have to give out what their business is or what they do. And then there's a same question, this is by David May, that it volunteers for Low Country and preparing tax returns for retired low-income folks and use additional volunteers and wants to know there's a way to make that community announcement. My understanding is that CSA did do those kind of things years ago in the past. It got to be where the website was even more involved and cluttered to work your way through all of the information that's there, and have gotten out of the business of doing that. I would suggest that if you want that to be dispersed, that you would distribute it, that you would contact the POA, ASPO, and ask them if they would distribute that, to the property owners. It's more of, it's just more of a general information. And I can tell you by the number of people who don't read all of our news information, particularly the Thursday one, who repeatedly asked me about something. And I say, well, that was just published. So they don't read it. To clutter it up more would be very difficult. We have another question about from Davey Perkins about e-bike resolutions and wanted to know what the status is. Well, I think we've answered that in the meeting, that it's an ongoing thing. We have a question from Julie Park about trash removal. Have we ever thought about going into trash collection? And that is a very extensive business. And I don't believe that it's anything that the board in the past has turned down doing that. And I don't think that's probably anything that we're going to look at, at the near future anyway. We have a question from Mr. Advocate about, well, first thing he says, I'm resending an early email as I have not received a response. That email was to me among the biker emails. And as I said, I do not respond to emails. I just don't have that much time. So I will address it in the meeting at this stage. This is the proper time. He says we are a community, not a one-way Zoom group. And why CSA is holding, in essence, closed door meetings. Well, and there's a couple of aspects, but let me address the community part. We are a community. And we are a community of not only permanent residents, we're a community of part-time residents, and we're a community of investors who rent property. Present thought is, for the time being, is that in representing all of these communities, we need to make our meetings available to all of our members So they can then ask these questions at the meeting and not just those who live here permanently. Otherwise, we're catering to one group of our community. And so we are trying to be inclusive as much as possible in all ways. And it's not a one-way meeting because these questions come and you get answers back to that. As to holding, in essence, closed door board meetings, well, I think if you would notice that in the past, starting with the pandemic and us going online, that if you've attended the board meetings, you've been able to hear the discussion between board members on the actual topics as there have decisions are being made, questioning it, challenging it, and you've been able to see things that you have not seen before. So instead of closed meetings, we have much more open meetings than I can remember in the past prior to the last administration. So I have got to say that you're going to see a little bit more from me, as I told you in my announcement, of things I'm going to put out in information. I have several topics I will put out that I haven't addressed with the board yet. You'll get that information, but I don't think you're seeing closed information. You're only seeing the fact that you cannot personally, address the board. And we're going to try to think about some alternatives to that, but for the time being, that's the way that it is. And why are we still paying rent for community building in Sea Pines? We need it for various things. We need it for the artist shows. We need it for other activities that go on. And we think for the time being that that works, that the cost is relatively modest for that function. So from this standpoint, it's a decision, a business decision made by the CSA board. And, and until we come up with what we think is not a good decision, we'll make a change. I have a question from Linda Antonelli, which I'm going to turn over to Sam.
Her question is, what are the options to address traffic backlog existing entering Sea Pines on Greenwood Drive? So the track is back up entering. When one vehicle gets in the wrong lane, the traffic is backed up because of all the traffic on Greenwood Circle. And she is absolutely right. As we discussed earlier, one of the additional solutions is additional signage on Greenwood Drive to try and get folks to know which lane they're supposed to be in. When we have a person who gets in the wrong lane and it takes more than 2 seconds to get them where they need to be, it does begin to back traffic up. So signage is one of those solutions. The other two are getting pass sales off of Greenwood Drive, which is going to be an expensive endeavor to do, but something we're going to be looking at this year, as well as adding an additional lane coming into Greenwood Drive, so that you've got a third lane coming into the community. But those are very, very expensive solutions. But ultimately, that is the solution that we're going to have to pursue if we want to address this for the community. The second part of that, though, is the circle. The circle and traffic in the circle is not something that CSA has the ability to control. That is a town and county issue. I will absolutely give thanks to Mark Orlando, the town manager, and to Steve Alford, our most recent county council member. They are very attuned to this. The town just made an announcement where they're moving to a automated signalization, a smart signalization system that will help us, not just us, but help the entire town. But it will have an impact on Sea Pines Circle. In fact, prior to this meeting this morning, I was meeting with the town manager and the mayor, and this is one of the issues and topics that we discussed. They understand how important it is to solve the Sea Pines Circle issue as it relates to the south end of the island, and is at the top of their list. It's number 3 priority on the town's capital list that was sent out a couple of weeks ago. So the town understands that they have a responsibility to help us on this end, and they're committed to doing that.
Thank you, Sam. The next question from Kurt Gossett really is not a question. He labels it as a comment. It's and it's related to really the town businesses. That it appears that Hilton Head wants to punish the many when it is the few that are breaking the rules. And one of the main concerns that is often mentioned, there's a limited resources home for workers on the island. And it goes about the cost of long-term rentals that they have to pay and matching, and if there's a need for affordable housing, et cetera. I'm not stating the comment exactly, but it is a town question. This is not within the realm of CSA. So I'm going to forward this, or actually, Mr. Gossett, it'd probably be better for you. You can get an answer if you forward this to the town. Particularly, you can forward it to Steve Alford, who is the councilman from that lives in Sea Pines. And if his address is published on the city's website. So it might be good to do that and go directly there. I'm sorry, it's just not within our purview. And then Candace Dalton asked a question about street name change, wanted to rename. Is renaming Plantation Drive something that is within the purview of the CSA? The answer is no, it's not, and not within our control. I think it covers everything. I've tried to move it quickly. We're going to shortly adjourn this meeting. If you have any additional questions that you want answered that were raised by either answering some of these questions or you didn't think of in time to get there, remember info@csacpines.com. Write your questions there. We'll get you the answers. And if there's any information you ever want that you see, you want to know whether it's correct or true or whatever, go to that and ask the questions. And again, you're always welcome to write me at the chair's email address. I will read them, that I promise you. And if there's something that I'll take into consideration, but again, I apologize for not responding to all of them. I am going to be soliciting your comments on other things, as I said, that haven't even been discussed with the board. And they'll, but we'll do that as we go along in the future. At this stage, we should have, didn't we adjourn already?
We've adjourned already.
Adjourned already. So we're going to go off live stream.